Hi, this is Bob Ray for Ray's Tennis. This is part 2 of a series of how to pick a tennis racket. Part 2 is about picking a racket for a young junior, say under 10 or under, and how to introduce the sport to a young kid. Depending on when they get introduced to tennis, the length of the racket will be a factor. Shouldn't be the most important factor, but it should be a consideration. I've made this part 2 separate from part 1, partly because there wasn't enough time but to do it justice, and there wasn't the attitude towards selecting a racket as a kid under 10 is going to be different than for someone that's older, more capable of playing the game right away. A 5-year-old, chances are, can't hit the ball. They've got to be a really super athlete at 5 to hit the ball. Now there are ways to go through a progression, and that's what I'm going to do here, is go through a progression of rackets, progression of developing athletic skills, progression of the sports they should participate in. The child usually naturally wants to run and jump and do things like that, some more than others. And those things will develop natural abilities. Now, if you'll provide an environment where there's balls available, they'll learn to kick balls and throw balls and catch balls, which is really something that should happen before they learn to play tennis. The Suzuki method of learning the violin has pretty well dominated, since it was introduced, it's dominated the way people learn instruments, particularly the violin. And almost all the major symphonies of the world are populated with people who come up through the Suzuki method. And it's, to summarize it, probably not do it justice, but it's basically providing an environment of music, particularly classical music, and providing an instrument that's small enough that a child can use. A big violin is very difficult for a 5-year-old to accommodate. They even suggest that you play music when the child is in the womb. They can hear inside there, evidently, and it just becomes part of them. If you learn the game of tennis late in life, it's not natural. Just like learning a language after, say, 10, you always have a slight accent. You don't sound like a native, even though you may be living in that country. But if you can introduce a language to a kid before they're 10, it becomes natural, and they have all the subtleties of the language itself. And the same way with tennis. We want to introduce tennis to them early. At least let them see tennis on TV, or take them to a place where people play tennis. Now, if they watch a lot of lousy tennis players that have poor form, they're probably going to emulate that. So it's also, if you can possibly get them to see good players play, that will help. Like I said, the progression should start early. The progression of learning athletic skills. You can learn to swim when you're a baby, just like 6 months old. Then they learn to crawl, and then they learn to walk, and then they learn to run, and then they jump. And then, like I said, they learn, if you have balls available to them and you encourage them, they'll learn to kick the ball. And if they can learn to kick the ball with both feet, that's even better. Learn to throw a ball with both hands, that's even better. And catch a ball. Strangely enough, catching is the hardest thing for them to learn. That comes last. The parent has to introduce this or encourage this. Generally speaking, kids at 3 years old don't go out and say, let's play ball. They play a lot of things, but usually not throwing balls to each other isn't one of them. Now the progression of rackets should probably start with a ping pong paddle. This is a shake hands grip, and this is a pen holder grip. You hold it like this. You want to introduce, if you're going to do it this way, introduce the shake hands grip because it translates into tennis later on. Badminton is an excellent sport because the ball is the feather is traveling very slowly, and the racket is very light. That would come next. These are ping pong balls. Now when it comes to the actual tennis racket, say 5 and under, they would start with an 19-inch racket. Then, when they're about 6 years old, they go to about a 21-inch racket. This is not written in stone. You can, if you're a super athlete, you can progress faster or really strong. You can have a longer racket earlier. I'm just giving you some guidelines. This is a 23-inch racket. They skip 2s, 19, 21, 23, and then 25. 25 and 26. Now we have demos of 26s, but we don't have demos of the other ones. Usually the kids select based on color, or maybe they identify with whoever's on the cover. This is Portolo, Del Portolo. When they get to be about 10, they're ready for an adult racket, but we have rackets that have really small grips and are super light. They're almost like junior rackets. And that's when they start demoing rackets, and I've assumed that they've played for quite a while, and they're ready to demo rackets, and they're sensitive to what a racket can do. A 6-year-old that's never played before has no idea, and giving them a demo is just a waste of time, in my opinion. The transition, just one more thought. This is a racquetball racket, and they're 22 inches. So if you want to fill in the gap between 23 and 25, between 21 and 23, this will do that. You should start with like soccer. It's easier for a kid to kick a ball than it is to throw or catch. And they're low to the ground, and the ball's low to the ground. So start with a small soccer ball, and they have soccer organizations and tournaments and teams for 5-year-olds. If you get the right coach, they'll love it. If you get the wrong coach, they'll hate it. But, you know, those are the odds. You can play ping pong at home. Get a table and play ping pong at home. You can play badminton at home, out in the yard, just banging around. Tennis has an organization called the USTA. It's a national organization. It takes donations, and it runs a couple of tournaments that make lots of money. So they have money to spend, and San Diego's unique in that it has a center here devoted totally to kids. There's 25 courts. They have instructors available. They give clinics. They have tournaments. It's called the Barnes Tennis Center, or the San Diego Youth Tennis Center. It's down at just off Point Loma in Ocean Beach. And anyway, the organization has sections. San Diego is part of the Southern California section, and we are a district of the section. If you want to find out all that's going on in the district of San Diego, or any district in the United States, go to the USTA website and look at the sections thing, click on that, and then go from the sections to the districts and find out what they're doing for kids, and you'll find out it's quite a bit. The rackets come in aluminum and graphite. The younger ones, the smaller ones, come in aluminum, and they're cheaper. They're like $20 to $30. The graphites start around $50 and go up to $100. The adult rackets start above 100 and go on up to like 300. That's about all I've got to say about kids' rackets right now. I'm going to do a part 3 on how to make a racket match another racket or modify a racket that you got. And part 4 is about strings. Strings represent about 50% of the racket, the way it plays. And so you should know something about strings if you're going to be a tennis player. Thank you.